Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to bring you guys my next gardening video. For those of you guys that don't know who I am, hello, hi, how are you doing? My name is Anika and I'm an American living in London, and I absolutely love gardening on my balcony garden. Now, if you guys have just come across this video or this is the first time you've come across my channel, I have made an entire video all about my gardening experience and balcony gardening. If you guys want to check that out, I will link it up in the cards for you guys right now. But I am going to be making today's video for all my beginner gardeners out there. I have had tons of success with my balcony garden last year. I made tons of videos about my harvest, but this year, as I'm getting ready to plant my garden outside, I thought it would be really useful and helpful for you guys to know my top 10 mistakes to avoid when you are a beginner balcony or container gardener. So without further ado, let's jump into my top 10 mistakes to avoid if you are container or balcony gardening. My first tip for you guys is never to over or under water your plants. Now, I know this is a common mistake for most beginner gardeners out there. The best rule of thumb for you guys to follow is when you are container gardening or planting in pots is to stick your finger into a pot and just see if the soil is wet, damp, moist. If the soil does feel dry, then it is time to start watering, and if it is moist or wet even, you definitely should not be watering your plant. There are so many different factors that affect how you water your plants. It can be how much sun exposure they get, how big the container is, what type of vegetable or plant you are growing. Please take all of this into consideration, and please don't overwater or underwater your plants. Just finding that right balance is key. And as you get more and more into gardening and just become more aware of your plants and how much water they need, you'll become an expert soon enough. The second mistake I would avoid when you are planting on your balcony or in containers is when you are watering your plants or your vegetables, please make sure not to water them from too high up. You want to make sure you're watering from the root. Now, there are two reasons why you want to make sure you are watering from the root. The first reason is you just don't want to damage your plants. When you water from too high up and the water plus gravity is hitting your leaves or any of your baby seedlings, it might cause them to break. It might cause them to be covered in dirt because of the splashback of that dirt. Just be very, very careful about watering from up high. Now, the second reason why you shouldn't be watering from up high and you should be watering the roots is whenever you get water on your leaves of your plants, any single time, that is going to cause possible issues, especially around pests or anything else that might be growing on your plants that you don't want them growing there. So just be very, very, very careful and make sure you're watering only at the root. My third mistake to avoid when you are planting on a balcony or using containers to grow your vegetables is just please be very aware of where the light is coming from. So you want to be sure that you are planting in a windowsill or somewhere where your plants are going to get regular light. If you are a city dweller like me, or you live in an apartment like me, I live in central London, you're going to have to be very, very hyper aware where you get sun. Because if you do have a sunny balcony or a sunny spot where you are growing all your container vegetables, that's awesome. You can even add shade to those spots. But if you do have a shady balcony or you do have limited sun in your apartment or on your balcony, you're going to have to be very picky and choosy what type of vegetables you decide to grow and where you're gonna grow them. If your balcony or anywhere you are growing your containers only has sun for a few hours of the day, you have to make sure you are planting your plants out in that direct sun area, because no matter what you do, you're not gonna be able to get more sun on your balcony. But just try to make sure that your plants are getting as much sun exposure as possible. I have done an entire video all about which types of vegetables you should be planting on your balcony if you do have a shady or a sunny balcony. If you guys want to check out that video, I will link it up in the cards for you right now. My fourth mistake for you guys to avoid when you are planting in containers is be very selective of which vegetables you do actually plant. Now, I know if you're a beginner gardener, you're going to be really excited. Maybe you want to grow a little bit of everything, which is awesome. That's really great. But just remember, not all vegetables grow best in a container or in a small space. So very, very, very few are really going to thrive in a container, and you want to be sure that you are growing vertically and not out. While there are lots of herbs and different vegetables that can thrive in a container, I have done a video of all the types of vegetables I am planting in my balcony this year, which is a London city balcony. If you guys want to get any tips or advice on what type of plants to grow on a city balcony or a balcony that doesn't get too much sun, I will link a video up in the cards for you guys to check out right now. The fifth most common mistake I see people that are doing container gardening or balcony gardening do is that they are using containers that are too small. Now, it is totally fine to start your seeds or your seedlings in small containers, but it is so important to make sure your seeds, your seedlings, and eventually your vegetable plants have enough space to grow and thrive. Now, everybody wants big juicy tomatoes or large cucumbers or big peppers. Whatever the case that you are growing, just make sure to give them enough space to actually grow. It is so important to space everything out and to give some vegetables and some plants their own container. So just be very aware of your container size. You can always start small and then you could keep putting them into bigger and bigger containers, but just make sure you're giving your plants enough space. If you guys are getting value from this video, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up so I know to create more content like this for you guys in the future. Now, the sixth mistake that I often see a lot of beginner balcony gardeners make, and also a mistake I've personally made, is I tend to overcrowd my pots. Now, it is totally fine that maybe you got a little bit excited and then you put a whole bunch of seeds into a pot and they all started to grow, and that's awesome and that's great and, you know, amazing. You got a whole bunch of little seedlings. But please make sure that you space out all of your seedlings into bigger pots so that they have enough room to grow and thrive. Having an overcrowded container could lead to a lot of things that end up in disappointment for your balcony garden. Now, if you do have too many plants in one small container, you might end up having some sort of disease across the plants. You might have some sort of pest infestation. A lot of things can happen just because they are so close together. Plus, if you are growing any sorts of fruits or vegetables and they are super crowded, you're not going to get as much of a harvest or even as large of fruits and vegetables. So just please make sure you read all of the spacing instruction on the seed packet that you end up purchasing, and make sure you are evenly spacing out all of your fruits and vegetables on your balcony. The seventh mistake that I see a lot of people make when they are starting with container or balcony gardening is that the pots they are using do not have drainage holes. Now, this is super problematic because if you do not have a drainage hole at the bottom of your pot, when you end up watering your plants, all that water just holds in that pot, and if you accidentally overwater or just tend to overwater, you're gonna end up with mold and you're just not gonna have enough air at the root of that plant, and it's just not going to thrive. When you do have that drainage hole, it just ensures that your plant doesn't end up having root rot, and if you do have root rot, it's really hard to go back from that. So just ensure that you do have some sort of drainage hole at the bottom of your pot. Now, if you bought a pot and it doesn't have a drainage hole, you can make it yourself. I've definitely made holes in pots myself. It's not that tricky or hard, and it just ensures that you won't have plants that have root rot or overwatering your plants. The eighth mistake that I normally see a lot of balcony or container gardeners make is that they forget to harden off their seedlings before they move them outside. So with container gardening or balcony gardening, you end up planting seeds indoors first. Now, I have done an entire video all about my indoor seeds planting session and my 1 month update. So if you guys want to see those videos, I will link it up in the cards for you right now. But as I get ready to move my plants out onto my balcony this year, the one thing I try to make sure I do is I try to get them ready and climatize them towards the outside temperature, the wind, the elements. When they are growing inside, a lot of times these little seedlings, they just get kind of comfortable. They're in a nice little warm, sunny environment. And then when they go outside, it's windy, it's cold, the temperature changes at night. They have to get used to that. So the best thing you can do is when you are growing indoors to outdoors and you are doing container or balcony gardening is in the weeks leading up to spring, during the daytime, especially on a sunny day, I would recommend putting all of your pots outside, maybe for 30 minutes, maybe up to a few hours, depending on how much sun you get on your balcony, just so that they can climatize, so they can get used to the temperature outside. After spending a little bit of that time outdoors, then those little seedlings can go into bigger pots and then they can properly thrive outdoors. If you just take all your seedlings and suddenly put them outside, what's gonna happen is they're gonna have a bit of a shock. It's gonna be temperature shock, it's gonna be change of climate and surrounding shock, and you might actually end up killing them. So after all that hard work of growing from seed to seedling and then eventually outside, just make sure you take the time to really harden up your little seedlings so that they are able to move outside. The ninth mistake that I often see a lot of people make, and I know a lot of you guys have lots of questions about this, is forgetting to use fertilizer. So when you are gardening in pots, containers, or on a balcony, you are not gardening into the dirt, meaning there's usually not that much nutrients. And if you are reusing your compost or your dirt year after year, you really have to use fertilizer. Just remember, when you're planting in pots or containers, that soil is only going to have nutrients for a short given period of time. The plant you are planting into that pot is going to eat up, drink up all that nutrients, and you're gonna wanna replenish that nutrients, and that's where fertilizer comes in. So whenever you start a fresh new season, please make sure to mix in compost as well as potting soil, and that's what you should be planting your seeds or seedlings in. When you do move your plants outside and they are in bigger pots, I recommend using a liquid fertilizer at least 2 times a month in order to make sure all of that dirt that you do have in pots stays nice and nutrients and keeps giving you beautiful fruits and veggies all summer long. And finally, the 10th and last mistake that I see lots of beginner balcony or container gardeners make is that they move their plants outside too soon. So in England and in London, the weather is just everywhere. And this year we are experiencing a little bit chillier of a spring. So I haven't actually moved my plants outside yet. So depending on where you are in the world, I would recommend to be very sure and check temperatures outside before you're ready to move your seedlings outdoors. If you move your seedlings outdoors too soon, you might end up getting frost on them, and then you might just end up killing all your hard work. So I would recommend waiting until mid-May, if not later, to move your plants outside, especially if you're in the UK or London area. But if you are in other parts of the world where it is warmer, just be sure that temperatures at night never dip below 0. And I would actually recommend that temperatures stay about 5 to 7 degrees Celsius overnight in order to make sure your plants survive the colder nights. Awesome, guys, that brings me to the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed my 10 mistakes to avoid if you are a beginner container or balcony gardener. If you guys got value from this video and you're enjoying my balcony garden videos, please make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on that bell notification because I upload videos every single week. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I hope to catch you guys in my next gardening video very soon. Bye!